The sound of shattering glass sliced through the mellow hum of quiet jazz and silverware clinking at the Marlowea polished restaurant nestled in the historic brickwork of Cambridge, Massachusetts. Conversation stilled. Forks hovered midair. Heads turned in unison toward the source of the disruption. Tiana Hughes was already kneeling, hands moving with silent urgency to collect the sharp shards of a water glass that had slipped from her tray. The crystal splinters glittered on the black and white tile like cruel little diamonds. Her trembling fingers swept the largest pieces into the folds of her worn apron. Her dark brown skin flushed with embarrassment, made more pronounced by the harsh lighting overhead. Her name tag, tilted slightly on her chest. Read, Tiana Server. Tiana was tall, maybe 5'9", with tight coils of hair twisted into a bun and features too sharp for anyone to guess her age accurately. She was 28, though most thought her barely 21. Nothing about her life felt young anymore. Her uniform, navy blue and pressed, had frayed seams. Her black non-slip shoes had soles worn so thin they felt like paper over concrete. Her fingers bore the faint lines of old burn scars and hardened calluses, built over years of grabbing hot plates and lifting heavy trays during double shifts. Across the dining room, Darren Clenna, her manager, stood with his arms folded, his expression sour. He was a man in his 40s with a gut he kept tucked behind tightly cinched belts and a mouth that rarely smiled. His voice cut across the dining room like a blade. That's the third one this month. Hughes. He barked, loud enough for a 4-table radius to hear. That's coming out of your check. Tiana didn't look up, didn't speak. She just nodded once, humiliation soaking into her skin like old coffee into linen. A couple nearby buried their noses in the wine list. A man stirred his soup with focused intensity. No one made eye contact. Sorry, Darren. Won't happen again, she murmured, rising to her feet and brushing the dust of glass from her knees. She turned toward the trash bin without a backward glance. She couldn't afford to lose this job. Not with rent due Monday. Not with her mother's medication racking up $800 a month. Even after insurance. For years ago, Tiana had stood in the marble hallways of Harvard Medical School. She had worn a white coat, carried a stethoscope, ranked near the top of her class, especially in pediatric neurology. Her professors admired her calm. Your presence soothes children before you even speak. Dr. Rodman, her advisor, once told her, "We can't teach that." She remembered those words often, especially on nights like this, filled with aching feet and customers who couldn't bother to learn her name. All of it had ended the night her mother collapsed in the kitchen, the bowl of soup slipping from her hands as she hit the tile floor. The diagnosis came fast and merciless: aggressive multiple sclerosis. Tiana made a decision that didn't feel like a decision at all. She withdrew from Harvard, left her white coat behind, and entered the world of tips and clock punches. Table 12 needs bread. Darren's voice snapped, pulling her back to reality. Right away, she called over her shoulder, already weaving through the maze of tables with a basket in hand. Complaining didn't pay copays. The Marlowe was beautiful on the surfaced all windows. Exposed brick. Candles flickering atop sleek tables but beneath the polish. It was like any other place she'd worked, understaffed, underpaid, and full of politics. She'd worked the same double shift for over a year. Noon to close. Most of the other servers' college kids working for book money or new car payments cycled in and out without staying long enough to notice Darren's favorites. Hey, Tiana, chirped Lindsay, a 21-year-old with blonde waves and effortless charm. Can you cover my section for like 20 minutes? My boyfriend just showed up with Thai food and I need to talk to him. I've got my own tables, Tiana said, and I've been here since noon. Lindsay pouted. Remember when you stepped off to take that call from your mom's doctor last week? I didn't rat you out. That call had lasted 7 minutes. She'd hidden behind the walk-in fridge while the neurologist explained how her mother's latest treatment was failing. Tiana sighed. 20 minutes. No more. You're amazing. Lindsay squealed, already halfway out the door. By 9 p.m. Lindsay still hadn't returned. Tiana's feet ached like splintered wood. Her shoes' arch support had collapsed 2 months ago. She hadn't replaced them. Every dollar counted. Her mother needed a new walker. The water heater was broken. Darren was pinning next week's schedule to the corkboard. She waited until the crowd thinned, then scanned the list. 3 shifts. She usually had 7. Her heart thundered. She caught Darren near the office hallway. There must be a mistake, she said, holding the paper. I'm down 4 shifts. Not a mistake, he said without looking up. Lindsay asked for more hours. You'll adjust. She lives with her parents. I've got rent and my mother's meds. Not my problem, he snapped. Schedule's final. She walked away, lips pressed tight, eyes burning. She couldn't afford to cry. Not here. Not with 3 hours left in her shift. She didn't know that the young girl sitting alone at table 15, the one no one else had wanted to serve, was about to change everything. The hostess appeared beside her, flustered. Table 15, just the girl for now. Dad's running late. No one else wants it. Can you? Tiana glanced over. A girl, maybe 10 or 11, sat alone at a table near the window. A blue cast covered her right arm up to the elbow. Her long honey blonde hair spilled over her face as she picked at the corner of a kid's menu. A wheelchair was parked just behind her chair. Tiana nodded. Yeah, I've got it. She smoothed her apron and approached, kneeling slightly to be eye level. Good evening, she said gently. I'm Tiana. I'll be taking care of you tonight. What's your name? The girl hesitated. Leia, she whispered. Nice to meet you. Leia, can I get you something to drink? Strawberry lemonade's a secret favorite of mine. Leia nodded. Strawberry lemonade. You got it. Tiana returned with the drink, already prepared with a bendy straw. Leia flinched slightly as a loud laugh burst from a nearby server near the kitchen. The cast on her arm rested awkwardly on the table's edge. Tiana placed the drink in front of her. Extra chilled. Just like I like it. Leia smiled faintly but didn't speak. If you're not sure what to order, Tiana said, I've got a secret. Our mac and cheese is the best in Boston 3 cheeses. Toasted breadcrumbs. Not on the kids' menu. But I can pull some strings. Leia looked at her with new interest and gave a shy nod. Mac and cheese it is, Tiana said, scribbling the order down. As she stood, she noticed a man had entered the restaurant. Tall, tailored gray coat, expensive shoes. His gaze swept the room quickly, landing on Leia. Relief passed across his features. But he didn't approach. Instead, he gestured discreetly to the hostess and took a seat 2 tables away, close enough to watch. Tiana noted the interaction without pause. Her job had trained her to see without being seen. When she returned with the food, another server had dropped off the dish without helping. Leia struggled with her fork, trying to eat with her left hand. Mind if I sit? Tiana asked softly. She pulled up a chair. That cast making dinner tricky. Huh? Leia nodded, eyes shiny with frustration. Tiana spoke casually. When I was in med school, almost I learned something. When one part of your body's hurt, your brain makes the others work harder. That's your superpower right now. You were a doctor? Leia asked. Studying to be one. Pediatric neurology. But life had other plans. She showed Leia how to steady the fork with a better grip, guided her wrist gently. There you go. Look at that. You're a fast learner. I like to draw, Leia said. But now I have to use my left hand. That's incredible. Most people can't draw with either hand. I can't even draw stick figures. Leia giggled a sound so light and sudden that it made Tiana's chest ache. She hadn't heard a laugh like that in months. Across the restaurant, the man in the gray coat, Miles Whitaker, watched. Unmoving. He had come to apologize for being late. Instead, he sat quietly, absorbing every word. Every smile exchanged between the waitress and his daughter. Tiana returned to her other tables. Hughes. Darren snapped as she passed the bar. Jessica's drinks have been waiting 10 minutes. I'm managing my section. Then manage it faster. And stop babying the kid in the corner. This isn't a charity. Tiana's face didn't flinch. Her name is Leia, and she's a guest. Darren scoffed. Just get the drinks out. Leia stiffened in her seat. Is he always like that? She asked. Only on days that end in Y. Tiana whispered with a wink. Leia giggled again. By the time dessert menus came around, Leia was talking more. Small, quiet stories. A cat her dad let her keep despite his allergies. A sketchbook she now held sideways. How everything felt different since the accident. Tiana listened not out of duty, but because she cared. Leia smiled. Not because she was being served, but because she was being seen. Miles watched silently. His jaw twitched now and then, not from anger, but from a heavy kind of emotion. When the check came, Miles walked over and placed his card in the leather folio. No introduction. No pomp. As Tiana handed it back, he slipped her a folded $100 bill. You made this evening easier than it should have been. Thank you. I was just doing my job. No, he said. You were doing more than that. Before she could answer, Darren called again, clipboard in hand. Tiana. Office. Now. She looked at Leia, then at Miles. You good, sweetheart? Miles asked his daughter. I'm finishing Crash, Leia said, coloring a cat with a lopsided smile. Tiana followed Darren down the hall, not knowing every step was leading her to the greatest opportunity of her life. Story continues in the next message due to character limit. Fan teep theo teep tuc kachid and mot Kathleen mock. Dung you caw. The hallway behind the kitchen was narrow and humid, heavy with fryer grease and the faint cologne Darren wore like armor. Tiana stepped into the cramped back office without a word. The fluorescent light buzzed overhead like a fly too tired to leave. Darren dropped into the chair, gesturing vaguely. You want to explain what that was out there? She needed help with her utensils, Tiana said evenly. This is a restaurant, not physical therapy. You spent almost half an hour at one table. Jessica had to cover for you. Jessica left over an hour ago. She walked out to meet her boyfriend. I covered her entire section. Darren's smirk twisted. You agreed to it. That makes it your responsibility. He leaned back. This isn't personal. It's business. I need fast servers, not martyrs. You don't get a medal for talking to sad kids. Tiana stood straighter, silent as he slid a small envelope toward her. Tonight's tips. Redistribution under the new pooling policy. She already knew what was inside. He continued. Next week. 2 shifts. 1 lunch. 1 dinner. Don't be late. She left without a word. Out in the parking lot, under the flickering streetlight, she sat in her old Honda Civic and opened the envelope. $43. 10 hours. Dozens of guests. At least $120 before pooling. She didn't cry. Not yet. She drove home through empty streets, pulled into the crumbling apartment complex just off Massachusetts Avenue, and climbed the steps 2 at a time. The hallway light buzzed overhead. She stepped into the dark apartment, removed her shoes, and walked to her mother's room. Dorothy Hughes lay sleeping peacefully, a soft fleece blanket tucked around her shoulders. The pill chart was initial misses. Sheehan had done her part. In the kitchen, Tiana sat at the small table. Unpaid bills stared back at her from the fridge door. She opened her laptop. The Harvard Med portal blinked awake. One notification. A message from Dr. Rodman. Subject, Pediatric Neurology Fellowship late application. Tiana. I never deactivated your credentials. I couldn't. A position is opened again. Full tuition remission. Full clinical rotation. I've asked the committee to accept a late submission. If it's from you, they will. Please call me. Rodman. Her hands hovered. She opened her email. Searched. Found it. The original invitation. 3 weeks old. She hadn't seen it. That week, she'd worked doubles every day. She typed fast. An apology. A plea. A promise. She hit send. It was 2:17 a.m. She sat in the dark. Laptop closed. Wondering, who would care for her mother? What would pay the bills? 3 hours later, her alarm buzzed. 6 a.m. Time for Dorothy's first dose. She rose, prepared the pills, poured water. At 6:07 a.m. There was a knock. Sharp. Measured. She paused, then peeked through the peephole. A courier, holding a thick envelope. Tiana Hughes? She nodded. Signature required. She signed. Hands cold. The envelope was cream-colored. Heavy. Embossed with a logo she didn't recognize. Inside, a card and a letter. Miles Whitaker, CEO. Whitaker Restaurant Group. Letter. Miss Hughes. Last night. You treated my daughter with more care than I've seen in over a year. You didn't know who she was. Or who I am. That makes what you did even more extraordinary. A car will arrive at your address at 9 a.m. To bring you to my office should you choose. It will wait 10 minutes. Leia asks that you come. She says you're the first person who looked her in the eye and didn't treat her like she was broken. Respectfully. Miles Whitaker. Tiana stared at the letter, then toward her mother's door. And then, the clock. 6:15 a.m. The sky was beginning to brighten. At 9 a.m. Sharp. A black town car rolled to a stop in front of the apartment. Tiana stepped out, dressed in her only professional outfit, a navy blazer, pressed slacks, and pearl studs she hadn't worn since med school. She had kissed Dorothy's forehead, left Mrs. Shin with instructions, and climbed into the car. She didn't know if her life was ending or just beginning again. The elevator opened on the 40th floor of a sleek tower overlooking the Charles River. Tiana stepped into a sunlit reception area, barely catching the receptionist's greeting before she heard. Tiana. Leia sat near a window, a sketchbook on her lap and a tall glass of strawberry lemonade at her elbow. I told Dad you'd come. She beamed. He's on a call, but he said we can start breakfast. Tiana smiled and sat beside her. Strawberry lemonade before 10 a.m. You must be someone important. I am. Leia said proudly. I also have a question. If your brain can rewire itself, can I still be who I used to be? Tiana leaned in. I think you can be someone even stronger. 10 minutes later, Miles entered the room. They were deep in a comic design Crash the Cat and his arch nemesis. Gravity. I see I've been replaced. Miles joked. It's not a competition. Leia replied, eyes rolling. But if it was, she wins. Miles gestured toward a conference room. Tiana followed. Heartbeat calm. I imagine you have questions. He began. Just one. She replied. Why me? He didn't sit. He stood by the window. Because I watched my daughter laugh last night. Because you saw her, not her diagnosis. And because what I found out afterward was unacceptable. He slid a folder across the table. Inside, employee logs. Tip records. Internal complaints. Darren had been fired that morning. An audit was coming. Protections were being implemented. You should have been protected. Miles said. He offered her 3 options. 1. General manager of the Marlowe. Triple salary. Full benefits. 2. Join their new community health initiative, higher pay. Housing included. 3. Return to Harvard Medical School. Full tuition. Housing for her and Dorothy. And home care covered. Dr. Rodman was expecting her call. Tiana stared at the envelope with her name printed in bold across the top. She didn't touch it. Why are you doing this? She asked. I'm not your project. I won't be your charity case. Miles nodded. This isn't charity. This is what happens when someone like you changes the trajectory of a child's life. If I do this, she said, it's not to be anyone's personal doctor. Not yours. Not your daughter's. Good? He said. That's exactly the way I want it. She looked toward the waiting area where Leia's laughter echoed. She said I helped her breathe again. Tiana whispered. She was right. Miles replied. Tiana smiled. Then I know what I'm choosing. 1 year later. The lecture hall at Harvard buzzed with quiet conversation. Tiana sat in the front row. White coat crisp. Embroidered on her pocket. T. Hughes. MS candidate. Pediatric neurology. Her notes were color-coded. Her focus unshakable. Her phone buzzed. Message from Mom. Therapy went great. Leia's drawing again. Dinner at ours. Making that casserole you hate. Tiana smiled. That evening, she stood at the entrance of the Leah Whitaker Center for Pediatric Rehabilitation, a sunlit building designed for healing, laughter, and strength. Inside, a framed drawing hung near the lobby. 3 stick figures. Dad, Sam, and me. Underneath, she saw me when no one else did. Now we'll help other kids be seen too. Tiana ran her fingers gently over the glass. The future she thought she'd lost hadn't disappeared. It had just taken the long way home.